Hi, I'm Christy Bemis, and I'm so excited for my talk today with author and therapist Megan Ness. And I just finished your book, and so I'm really excited to dive into a few of the things that I thought were just like little gold nuggets for myself in my life. And I'm just really glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. I've been really excited about this conversation, so I'm really happy to be here.
I am very excited too. And so I wanted to start with the cover of your book. It's on my Kindle when I read it, and it's called Growing Up Before You Grow Old, Never Too Late by Megan Hart Ness. And it just was, for me, it just felt like a life manual for how to grow up, how to be a grown up. And I
Mm.
loved how it was structured, and all the different chapters are like classrooms. They're like skills that you
Yes.
can take away with you. So that was lovely. And on your bio and on your website, you call yourself a solar powered unicorn, which I really love. So I want to hear a little bit more about that. But you're a therapist, author, and speaker. And so welcome. And people can find Megan at
It's Megan
www.meganness.com.
Hartness. Yeah, my middle name is
Heartness.com.
Hart, like a
Yep.
deer, like the deer.
Yeah. Okay. So that'll be in the description below. But let's dive in. Tell me more about yourself and things that I didn't capture in your bio that you feel like are important for us to know.
Yeah. Okay. So I am a therapist. I actually got into coaching about 5 years ago, and I'm just getting off a sabbatical. Actually, I took a year-long
Yeah.
sabbatical that's ending next month in April, and it's been a really unexpected year to really have a ton of space for self-analysis, for healing in
Mm,
different relationships, and I think just getting away from the practice of therapy for a while, and then coming back to it with fresh eyes and a fresh excitement.
yeah.
Um, it has been really exciting. I'm starting to get really excited about coming back. I've been married for, I just celebrated last Thursday is my 21st wedding anniversary.
Oh,
Three,
congratulations.
thank you. I have three
Yeah.
kids, 18, 15, and 12. And I live in Denver, Colorado. And yeah, this is a story actually in my book, but this idea about being a solar powered unicorn is, I tell the story of when I was younger really I would go in and out of depression in high school. I was really struggling, and then I ended up out here in Denver for a bunch of different reasons, and never a day of depression in my life. I've been out here 23 years now, and come to find out that actually I'm so sensitive. I'm very sensitive. I'm really affected by everything, including weather, and the sun is like. I mean, getting in the sun for me is like being plugged up to a power
Yes.
source. So that's why I say solar powered. The unicorn piece is just I'm weird, and I've kind of embraced my weirdness. Weird, like I'm an introvert. I'm kind of a little bit of a nerd. I really love singing out loud in my car and dancing and that sort of thing. I've kind of embraced that I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and actually that suits me just fine.
I love people that are unicorns, so you're my favorite kind of people. Yeah. I
Yay.
love I love nonconformity. I love anything where it's like those two things don't really make sense that they go together in a person, and I love people like that. So that's great.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
actually would say to
and
my clients, or the people would say, what makes you unique in the client space, and I would say, well, I can say Jesus and fuck in the same sentence, and it doesn't cause me any any trouble.
they both can exist.
They both can exist. Yeah.
Great. I love that. So what made you write the book? Because for me, it yes, it's a life manual skills class, but it's also really part memoir and
Hmm.
part like your struggles as a woman resonated with a lot of my struggles as a woman. I think anybody that reads it, whether you're a man or a woman, they'll resonate with these personal stories. You're so vulnerable in the book, and
Mm.
also just stories from other people in your life and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I think like you're hitting on really some of the impetus for writing the book, which is as a therapist, one of the things I love is that I've never seen myself as an expert, like coming into the room top down. Like I was just doing a training yesterday and being reminded like this idea of this sort of removed objective presence in the room is a really old idea, an idea from
Yeah.
kind of the 70s and 80s in therapy. And we know now it doesn't work. It doesn't actually help people. They need vulnerability, they need presence, they need to feel like another human is really interacting with them. And so that's what I hoped to give in the book. I really, I just have never done well with people that were elusive, or it's like they had this guru knowledge, but no one could reach it, right? No one
Yeah.
could attain to it. And I think that makes all of us feel a little lost. Like,
Hmm.
I'll never be that, or I'll never do that. And I've always liked that, not just vulnerability, but the like everyman idea in my life. Like, I want to be able to say to you, no, you can do what I've done. You can get where I've gone because here's the steps, or here's what I did, or here's how I got there. And I love that. And I really did write the book because, and I do say this in the entry chapters, I wish I had this book. I mean, I think that's what every author who
Mm,
writes in this genre, we're writing the thing that we wish had been handed to us at 25 years old,
yes.
And it's still a gift to receive it at 46, where I am right now. My current book club has actually chosen my book
Oh,
as
that's
our
good.
next book, and I'm so excited to read it because it's
Yeah.
interesting. Even though I wrote it, I know that I will pick up
Mm.
and glean a couple more things every time I read it because I just poured my heart and soul into it, and it really was coming from these real life moments, and I'll be reminded of some really important truths in reading it.
That's great. And yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit today about like the nuggets that I pulled out that really spoke to me, but we're also going to be talking about you're an expert in attachment styles,
Hmm.
and we're going to be talking about how our attachment, which I work with couples all the time on that, and I work on it myself as well because I'm a fellow
As
traveler.
we all do. Yeah, we are the
I do
travelers.
therapy the same way you do, which is like I probably give too much self-disclosure sometimes. Like pull it
Always,
back in, Christy.
always.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like I want them to know I've walked the walk. I don't just talk the talk. I'm not sitting here in a bubble of
Yeah,
like I don't have the same problems. So we're going to talk a little bit about how attachment styles really impact our relationships and what healing can really do for those. But the first nugget that really stood out to me in reading the book is that we cannot know what we need unless we know what we feel.
Mhm.
And a lot of the work that you do with attachment styles is Dr. Sue Johnson's tutelage of her breadth depth of work that she's had, and so that really spoke to me. And can you speak a little bit about that particular quote? Like how we find out our needs is when
Yeah.
we feel.
Absolutely. I actually, this is interesting. I literally yesterday had a talk with one of my very good friends, good friends with her and her husband. And her husband is this is the space he's in right now, is he's saying, I don't know what I need. His birthday's
Yeah.
coming up, and he said, I don't even know what I want to do for my birthday. And we were chatting about this concept, and I was reminding her, when our kids are little, and this is kind of I'll step back for a second. This actually is where attachment comes into this place because when we have
Hmm.
actually the person in our life guiding us and helping us, we learn how we feel and what we need at a very young age. I am saying to my kids things like, oh, I see your head's down. I see your arms are crossed. Are you sad? Was this about this? I'm asking the questions and I'm noticing their body language. I'm noticing what's happening for them on their behalf because that's my job, right? As the parent, they
Hmm.
can't know. My 7-year-old doesn't know. My 10-year-old doesn't know. Even my 18-year-old doesn't know sometimes what she's feeling, and I can conjecture with her. I wonder if it's this. Could it possibly be this, right? I'm giving her all these spaces, right? So we do get that. When we don't have that, when we don't get that kind of noticing and mapping is a really good word for that. Like someone is mapping us and
Yes.
helping us understand the our internal landscape. What do I feel? What do I want right now? Then it really becomes a problem in adulthood. And that's certainly was my story. I didn't know
Hmm.
anything. I couldn't have told you what I needed, what I wanted. And back to this quote, I can't know what I need unless I know what I feel. If I'm feeling lonely, I know I might need partnership. But if I don't know I'm lonely and someone's going to say, "What's going on right now? What do you need?" You kind of drop a blank, It's like this
Yeah.
big blank inside, like I don't know. I don't know what I need. And so similar as we would do with a child, the analogy I like to give is how we help kids decide what they want to eat. I don't know if you've dealt with a child who's just so frustrated because they don't know what they want to eat. And you
Yeah.
start with the classic questions, right? Okay, let's imagine this. Do you want something hot or do you want something cold? Okay, John, do you want something salty or do you want something sweet? Do you want something smooth or crunchy? And the child can start to imagine these feelings, right? And we can give them examples. Smooth would
Hmm.
be like yogurt, or cold would be like ice cream, or that sort of thing. And we kind of help them get close to that. The same thing is happening in us, and certainly as as therapists, as coaches, we are helping people get to those spaces about how they feel. So right now, what's happening in your body? Okay, your chest is tight. Oh, okay, chest is tight could be 10 different things, right? We don't want to assume on the behalf of a client, but we can conjecture. Okay, well, I know that I did just say this to you. I'm wondering if you're having a response to that. Could you sit with that idea for a second? No, it's not that. Okay. Well, could it be, right? And we just work until it's like, oh, you feel anxious because you think you just said something wrong and I'm judging you. Either
Mm,
here in this
yeah.
friendship or here in this therapy room or here with my husband, that body awareness starts to give us a lot of information about what we're feeling. Now, that's going to lead me to what I need. So if I'm feeling judgment because I think I said the wrong thing, I might need to talk about where that came from. I might need to tell you this childhood memory I have of where this pattern comes from of me being so afraid of saying the wrong thing. Or I might need you in this moment to tell me that I didn't say the wrong thing. Like there's no one answer. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think we can't even know. And we can't even know if what we're being given is landing unless we have sort of like a body marker, an idea of a feeling. So we know, did that get soothed? Did that work for me? Did I get my need met or do I need more? And I think again,
Hmm.
in secure attachment, when we have that from the get-go, it's just like it's so smooth, it's so easy. There's not a question about it. Kids really come into the world believing my feelings matter. I don't have to understand my feelings. I can be with a stronger, wiser other who will help me figure it out. I don't have to question it, right? There's not a lot of shame involved. And when those of us don't have that, or we have any kind of a disruption in that secure attachment patterning, then it is work for us. And the good news is we can do it. Like it's so beautiful that we don't have to say, oh, well, that's what it is. My mom couldn't this, my dad couldn't that, or my grandma couldn't this. We really can regain that sense of secure attachment as an adult.
Yeah, I really love that because in my office, I keep a feelings wheel and it has like the inner spoke, the secondary and the tertiary, and helping clients get to like the more nuanced feelings. But so many of us grew up with caretakers that they weren't able to map the way that you're talking about being able to map. And so when we're talking about attachment styles and impact on adult relationships, I'm curious, how do you teach that mapping then for your clients? And how do you go about doing that?
Mapping themselves or others.
Mapping themselves and others, like being
Oh,
able
yeah,
to
yeah. I would
understand
say,
other people's emotions and being able to react to them in ways that feel supportive and
yeah.
loving.
I would say really in the last year that the concept of mapping has just come, as concepts do, this has just become more to the surface. Like I do think as I head back into practice, that's something I'm going to be a little more explicit about talking because I think it's a really just a beautiful explanation that anyone can kind of grasp onto. I haven't been as explicit, but certainly I've been teaching for, over a decade, been helping clients tune in what's happening in your body right now. Can we name that? Can we turn to if it's couples therapy, can I turn to my partner right now and can I say, "Ooh, when you just said that, I got this feeling in my chest and the thought attached to
Mm,
the feeling was, oh no, I'm you're going to reject me," or whatever that feeling is, and then we're modeling that for them. And we, of course, as
yeah,
the therapist or coach, are the secure attachment in the space, right? We're the ones who are like modeling the groundedness, the safety for them, and the mapping. That's what we are mapping our clients, and that is what they could have had, right? And probably didn't have from their caretakers. And interesting, right as you said that, what I'm thinking about mapping, and this is just I like to think as I talk sometimes, but
yeah.
I would say, the two main attachment styles are avoidant and anxious, or we sometimes talk them about a distancer and a pursuer, right? These are just different ideas around the same concept. But an avoidant person very early on decided no one's going to be there for me. I've got myself.
Hmm.
Interestingly, that avoidant person who goes off and really isn't tuned into the world around them very much is also very much not tuned into themselves. That the avoidant person is actually much harder in
Yeah,
a therapy room to help map themselves. They're much more likely to come forward and say, I feel nothing. I feel nothing in my body. I don't have a feeling about that, right? And so that's an interesting and fun person to work with just to help them start to see that sometimes nothing is the feeling, right? Nothing actually became the
yeah.
way that they survived all the chaos maybe that was happening around them. The other person who's sitting over here in a more pursuing style, a anxious style, this person actually, their strategy was, I am going to move towards, even when moving towards often doesn't get me exactly what I want, but it's better than being alone.
Yeah.
And so that's why these an avoidant person and a pursuing person often come together in relationship, almost always. It's a very
Almost always.
almost always. It's really rare that you get any different than that pattern. And obviously it blows up eventually, right? Because these two
Yeah.
patterns don't really work together, and we have to show people what's really happening underneath. But I'm just thinking as far as the mapping goes. So this person over here, the avoidant, they've not mapped anyone, and they've not mapped themselves much at all.
Right.
On the other hand, the anxious person has mapped their caregiver. They had to stay safe, right? Because if they were
Yeah.
going to move towards, they had to know are they activated right now? Or if
Mm.
they're activated, what could I do that would resolve that activation? What would make mom happy? What would make dad not rage right now? So they were mapping, which is, we call that in the therapy speak world, parentification, right? It means like the roles got reversed. My parents were supposed
Yeah.
to be mapping me and helping me understand what I'm feeling throughout the world. And instead, what happened is I was mapping them.
Mm.
And secretly, I was moving around that mapping to try to avoid distress in the system and try to get as much attachment or attunement as I could, which is usually not a lot, but it's like we keep going for it because it's something.
Yeah. And I know that attachment styles are out there now. I mean, I have a lot of clients that come in and they're like, I watched a video on TikTok and I know,
Yeah.
all of like the
Yeah.
social media, but you touched on three of them, which is secure, avoidant, and then the anxious pursuer. What's the fourth one?
The fourth one is disorganized, and
Yeah.
it really just it's a more rare presentation. You're not going to see it. So I think some people come in. I think my daughter at one point was like, "Mom, I think I'm disorganized," and I'm like, "You're not disorganized." Disorganized really comes from pretty extreme trauma. I mean, it really
Mm.
is the I think one of the ways that they put words to it is like come closer, no stop. Like it's like you want closeness so much, but you also are so afraid of it. And so it is it feels disorganized, like the way a room might be
Yeah.
disorganized. It just feels like in the end it becomes a lot about control because there's such a lack of safety that actually I sort of like bring people close to me to fill a need, but it's very transactional. I still think all attachment styles can be healed and become more and more secure. I think that one, again, a more rare presentation, and usually we have to get to the root of a lot of significant trauma that happened, neglect, abandonment, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the work. I love the work around attachment. And I think leaving people with a little hope, like just because you had this attachment style or you grew up or this was like created in your childhood experience and your experience with caregivers, it's not a life sentence. And Harville Hendrix talks a lot about your relationship either heals you or it rewounds you. And so could you speak a little bit about that? Like the message of hope in here is once we have this awareness, and you talk about a lot in your book, I think you have a whole chapter on awareness.
Awareness. It's the first chapter in that whole section of these skill sets, right? Because awareness
Yeah.
is key. We really can't
Mhm.
change anything without being aware of it.
Yeah. And then what? Once you have awareness, then what?
Well, yeah. So in the book itself, again really exactly to what you're speaking of. My idea was like I don't want people to think, well, I didn't learn that growing up, or I didn't have that model to
Yeah.
me. I didn't. It's like okay, that's okay, and here it is. And it took me such a long time to figure it out. As I said, I'm 46. I mean, I just wrote the book last year. It took a very long time for me to find enough good models in my life. A lot of them were therapists. And it
Mm.
can be hard and sad for many years when you think, oh my gosh, the only person who's able to hold me well or see me well, I'm paying for that service. I know the pain of that. And I would just like to encourage people that's okay. That's just a necessary step sometimes. But getting
Yeah.
that knowing and that seeing is actually going to start to build in you these skill sets. And then you actually are going to go out and make these deeper friendships. That's certainly been my story and the story of so many people that I know. So, yeah. And then what? It's just awareness. I think, honestly, I think because people don't have like this map, like in my book, awareness hits of anything and then they sort of shut down because they don't know what to do with it. For
Yeah.
example, I was just talking to another therapist, and they were talking about a client who came in, and the therapist was asking him, "Can you check in right now? It just seems like something might be happening in your body." And
Mm,
the client was saying, oh my gosh, I just feel like this rigidity in my body, this." And the therapist was able to lean in and say, "Oh, this sounds like your body's doing something really wise. Can we tune in? What's happening here?" And it was a defensive mechanism in the space because the client was afraid. And being able to teach the client, "Oh, that really yucky feeling in your body is actually your body's wisdom trying to tell you something really good. And it's actually how smart, what a smart defense mechanism for your body to get really rigid when it feels threatened." Again, I think if you don't know that, and that's why the book, why I wrote it, it's like if you don't know that sometimes the things that feel bad are actually beautiful and see them as beautiful, they may not be working for you anymore, right? They may have
yeah,
reached the end of their lifetime of actually being helpful, but that doesn't mean they weren't helpful for your whole life. And when we can turn to any of those mechanisms and say, "Oh my gosh, thank you. My ability to go numb in this moment and feel nothing is how I survived that. And my ability to do this or that is how I survived that." And so now just being aware of it, like, whoa, I just went numb right now and I'm at the grocery store buying apples. Okay, what's happening? Again, not
yeah,
shaming self. I think there's so much
yes,
shame that happens. I can't tell you. I mean, I think shame is just swimming in our culture. And whenever I hear a client say, "Well, I should have or I shouldn't have," I'm like, oh, like, okay, right now, do you hear yourself? You're literally shaming yourself. You should have done
yeah,
something different. You should have done something, not done something. Can you just be with what is? Like, can we just love ourselves in this moment? And I think a lot, for me personally, a lot of that has been religious. A lot of shame came down in religious circles. I don't think it was ever intended. I am a very spiritual person. I do love Jesus, but I had to detach from all the things that came with that, the shame
yeah,
of this is good, that's bad. And actually a friend of mine told me that she's becoming friends with a guy, he's a Sufi mystic. So really
hmm.
different spirituality, but she was talking about shame, and he said, "Well, that doesn't really exist in our culture." And she was like,
Isn't that interesting?
"What?" And he said, "Yeah,
Yeah,
because we see everything as it's perfect. Right now, this feeling, this terrible feeling I'm having, it's perfect. You got that fit my child is having, that's perfect right now." And that for me has been healing, to just
yeah,
accept, like it's not just the awareness. And one of the next chapters after awareness is acceptance. Like I just
hmm,
accept this right now, what's happening. I trust that it means something. I trust
yeah.
that, I can learn something from it. I trust that there's good here somewhere. And sometimes I do think that it takes a friend or a guide or a book to teach you that.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, we can't do it. We're not here alone. We're not doing the work alone. So, yeah, and for the last 2 years, I've been studying Terry Real's work, relational life therapy, and he talks about that numbness that you were talking about as our adaptations, and adaptations then, survival mechanisms then, maladaptive now, and how they impact our relationships. And
Yes.
so I think that's really powerful. What you're speaking to is once you're aware and you accept, like, this is what's happening, you don't have to carry it forward. Like, this isn't getting you what you want in a
And as I
relationship.
mentioned in the book, you're not going to get rid of that pattern by
Yeah,
shaming it, by saying, "Oh, that's so bad,
right.
stop it. Oh, that's really ruining my relationship right now, stop it." It really takes
Yeah,
a sense of turning towards that thing and thanking it for what it's done for you. And
yeah,
sometimes that's a whole process in of itself.
it is.
Oh my gosh, look at what you saved me from. Look at all this stuff. And I actually had an experience like this with anxiety. So anxiety has been such a friend to me over, I mean, an enemy in a lot of ways too,
Yeah,
but a friend to me. And I had at a retreat setting, I was able to imagine sitting with anxiety, and the new movie had just come out. What's the one with all the emotions, the Pixar
inside out.
Inside Out.
Hmm.
So Inside Out
Yeah,
2, they introduced anxiety. She's this orange
yeah.
character with this crazy hair. And I just pictured this kind of center point, like a
Mm,
like a nail in the center, and then this, like concentric circles going out. And what I could finally see was that anxiety had actually helped me get from the center out to this point, but
yeah.
she had a leash on her, right? It was like she could only take me so far. And so I was looking out to the wild blue yonder and saying, "I want to move on. I don't want to stay stuck here in this circle." And so I sat down with her, like imagined myself sitting down with her, and we just cried it out together. And I was able to
Mm,
say, "Oh my gosh, like thank you so much for all the things you've saved me from. Thank you for so much awareness you gave me of other people and situations, of myself." And I really need to move beyond this. Like you're at this point,
Hmm.
like I can thank you for what you've offered me and I need to move on. And we had a really good goodbye, and it was a blessing.
Yeah.
I was able to kind of bless her and move on. And I think in
Yeah.
general, that's what we have to be able to do when we're leaving these patterns is they are
Yeah.
maladaptive now, but they have been really helpful.
So that leads me to another powerful like little nugget that I took out of the book, which was avoiding triggers is a game of emotional immaturity, and that triggers can really be treasures. And I know that feels true for me. Like when I'm challenged in any kind of relationship, not just my partnership, but also friendships or colleagues or collaborations, I used to be afraid of that and like backpedal. Like, oh, this feels off. This is not right for me. And I think a lot of my clients think if I feel this way, the relationship must be wrong. But it's they're treasures and they're growing us. And so I would love to hear you speak a little bit about what that means for you.
Yeah, really to back up into what we're talking about secure attachment. In secure attachment, there's a couple of basic aspects of secure attachment, and one of them is rupture and repair. Security is a huge piece of it, but inside
Yeah.
security is I get to have feelings. I get for this situation to not go well, to have a preference here, to have you miss me in some way, to come to you. And people that are securely attached, they assume because they've had it modeled to them their whole life, they get to be upset, they get to be mad. Their parent goes, "Oh, what is this anger? Oh, help me understand it." Right. And they repair in that moment. And repair requires another person not being so offended. So
Yeah.
back to that, the idea of triggers are treasures. I think the reason we don't know that innately is because we haven't experienced that. We have experienced people, I know in my childhood home, if anything bad happened, it was like, you know, oh my gosh. I mean, everyone just got panicked in the space. So I learned to
Yeah.
associate a trigger with massive anxiety and not safety, right? It did not feel safe to bring up an issue.
Yes.
Even into my adulthood, I would bring up issues with my parents. It just wouldn't go well. And I felt like I was sort of like coaching them on attunement
Yes.
in place, right? And repair. Thank you. Thank goodness I've had really good friends who have modeled
Hmm.
this to me, right? That actually we can become closer because back to the mapping, let's say, Christy, let's say you and I, at the end of this podcast, we have a rift. Something happens. I say something that offends you, right? And you bring it to me. If actually we're in secure relationship together, what that
Hmm.
does for me is it helps me map you more accurately.
Yeah.
It's a blessing for
It
me.
strengthens
It
our connection and
strengthens
our
the friendship.
relationship.
Absolutely. Because I'm
Yes.
like, oh, I didn't know that about you, Christy. I didn't
Yeah.
actually know that was a sensitive space for you. I didn't know you had maybe a past trauma related to that. I didn't know you had
Hmm.
preference. And because I care about you and I'm heart forward in this secure
Yeah.
relationship, I'm so curious, not how I'm gonna, again, friends and I were talking about this morning. It's not how I'm going to be self-conscious in the relationship so as not to offend you again. It's more like, oh, I can now have you in my mind's eye in a very different way because I can be aware of this. And here's the thing, I'm human. I might forget next time. And you might have to say, ooh, this hurts even worse now because I told you. And I'll be like,
Yeah.
but the repair part is as long as I lean towards you and say, Christy, I am so sorry. You mean so much to me. And the fact that I have missed this again a second time is not okay for me. I really want to learn. So thank you for bringing this.
Mm.
You're not needing too much right now. I absolutely want to meet you in this place, right? There's something that happens to our soul when someone meets us there. I
Hmm.
literally just had a repair with a friend yesterday. I had asked a very specific request in kind of a difficult space I'd been and felt dropped. And I was able to bring that to her. And she was, I mean, this is the beauty of repair. She said this to me, like almost verbatim. Hey, I'm confused because I thought I did what you asked. That doesn't even matter to me. You're telling me right now, Megan, that I didn't get it right. That's what matters to me. And I want to get it right with you. And you're worth getting it right with. So there's no
Mm.
defensiveness in it. There's no, right. And she's telling me you're not wanting too much. You're not needing too much. So that's what I mean ultimately when I say triggers can be treasures, because in a secure
Yeah.
space, they really can be such a gift to know a person better and honestly it's almost like the soothe you get another soothing round of secure attachment in that moment, right? Someone saying, "Oh,
Hmm.
I'm so sorry to get it wrong with you. You matter to me. I wouldn't want to hurt you like that."
Yeah. Yeah, and so many of us either witnessed really bad conflict or were part of really bad conflict or we had no conflict. And so couples
Right.
that come in and they're like afraid of the conflict they're having, I'm like, no, no, no. Like, let's just like clean it up. A conflict in any relationship that is important to us, that matters, is
Hmm.
inevitable. You know, we're gonna
Yeah.
sometimes get it wrong. We're gonna sometimes step on a trigger that we didn't know even existed. And so I love the beauty of that, the fixing the rupture. And you use another word that's my favorite word in the whole universe, which is curiosity.
Hmm.
And you have, I think, a whole chapter on that as well. And
Yes.
the quote that I pulled out was a lack of curiosity leads to judgment, and judgment keeps us safe.
Hmm.
I love that. Tell us a little bit about what that means for you.
Well, it's so funny when you say it, I can somatically feel my own experience of it. I
Yeah,
mean, again, so
I
much of
can
this
too.
book is just my own my own experience of this. So for me, judgment, and I have a lot of reasons that I got judgment in, in my bloodline. I think it's probably in my DNA, first of all, for a lot of different reasons coming down from both lines. Judgment puts other people in a box and says, that's bad, or that's this, or that's that, right? In that
Hmm.
space, there's not a lot of room for me to be curious, to go forward and say, well, wait a second, I've always been taught X. You're telling me Y. I wonder what that is. It requires a bit of what we call like emotional flexibility, right? This space to like maybe be a little uncomfortable. And for a lot of different reasons, a lot of us have been trained that that's anathema. I mean, that's like death, to be uncomfortable like that, to be in a space of gray, maybe emotionally, or being stretched a little bit beyond what we've known. I know, especially like in religious spaces, this can happen, and I think it's part of been my healing from, again, not from God. I don't need healing from
Mm-mm.
that. I mean, God for me is beautiful and a constant. It's just healing from the power structures and the ways we think about things. And I know for me, I was taught like certainty. Certainty is safety.
Yes.
But really, that's not. I mean, that's not safety. Safety is my ability to be expansive enough to hold a lot of sway, to be uncomfortable, to have a question and not have it answered. And the classic example I give to people when it's like, well, what are we talking about here? I'm like, well, just think of the guy or the girl in the room that like always knows, always has the answer. Like it's always just real clean. You're like, well, I wonder about Sufi mystics and like they're like, no,
Hmm.
they're wrong because they believe in blah 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 blah. And in that moment you're kind of like, oh, well, I actually genuinely was trying to lean in and understand this.
Right.
And it's like they've just got this idea we know it in our bodies that it doesn't feel expansive. It doesn't feel big. It doesn't feel safe. And yet most of us have been modeled that, yeah, just put it in the box. This is good, this
Mhm.
is bad. And that will keep us safe. Unfortunately, we're seeing that play out in our world right now. It does not keep us safe. It actually creates all kinds of trauma, terror,
Yeah.
violence against one another because we're not actually realizing we're all human. We all are made by the same God. We all have the same, we're all here walking this walk together. And people who have different ideas or even different experiences or different beliefs have them for very good reasons. We don't necessarily have to believe that, or we don't necessarily have to agree to try to understand. And I do think secure attachment, back to this core that we're talking about, secure attachment allows me to feel grounded in and of myself in a way that
Hmm.
allows me to stretch really far. I think this is talked about in Brene Brown's new book, the idea of paradox, right? That if I'm a strong
Hmm.
tree, like I can hold these two very disparate things that, very far away from each other because I'm grounded here. But if I'm not grounded
Right.
here, I mean, I really feel like, oh no, if that could be right, then my whole life falls over. Yeah, that's sorry. I kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, I love all of that. And curiosity can't coexist with like defensiveness, and curiosity and judgment can't
Hmm.
live in the same block, you know? And so curiosity kind of is the feeling, the word, the mindset of healing, I think. And especially in our relationships, you
Yes.
can't mind read your partner and be curious at the same time.
Right. And so you just said curiosity is necessary for closeness.
Yeah.
If my partner comes to me and says, hey, I'm having this feeling, or you said this thing. If again, like you said, to defensiveness, if I go, well, that's not what I meant, or I'm shutting down actually a moment to
Yeah.
understand my partner better instead of leaning in and being like, again, when I'm secure in myself, my partner's feelings about my actions don't actually make me a bad person, right? I can be
Right.
enough to be like, I have, and I think that's one of the gifts of parenting is that we do this so naturally with our children, when we're decently well grounded, that my child can really be angry at me for something, and I can be bewildered by it. I can be very confused, but I want to lean in. I want to understand what.
Yeah.
Hey, why are you angry? What happened there? And when
Tell
they
me more.
tell me more, and when they tell me from
Yeah.
their perspective, and I can get down on their level and think, well. Yeah, from what they knew, from what I was able to tell them, that would be frustrating if I was them. It doesn't, and I talk about this in the book, but like really removing intention from impact. Like my intention might have been really beautiful, but the impact might have been bad. And that's okay. I think we can, when we can be really grounded and secure people, we can hold both, right? I intended
Yeah.
this gift to you, Christy, to be really beautiful. I had no idea it was going to trigger an old thing with, your ex or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I think we could keep talking on and on and on and on. And I know that there's future conversations we can have and record and share and future collaborations because the work that you're doing is just such a gift to the world right now. And I just really appreciate having you on. It was just, I could keep talking.
Thank you.
Um,
It's really,
so
really
I
fun.
know that you have this beautiful gift to give to people, and they can find it at www.meganhartness.com/resources. And one of them is collarbone statements to break through emotional blocks. And another one is a printable emotional self-assessment for elevating like that emotional maturity that we need to be
Yes.
relationally available. So tell us a little bit about those and if there's anything else that how people can find you in other places.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love these two tools. Collarbone statements come from an energy technique that I work with clients on.
Okay.
And it really is a way to, it's almost like a mantra. So, we might have a positive statement. We say to ourselves, I always joke about the one from SNL, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people love me. But this kind of mantra, the collarbone statements actually are somatic, meaning they're actually using the intelligence of our body and the energy
Mm,
systems running in it, so that we're not just saying a head statement, because our head is one place we hold it sort of an intelligence, but we really do have like a body intelligence too. So I model it. You can go see it's a really quick video, an easy video, and I as I suggest there, you can really say almost any statement. One of the statements that I suggest there is an idea of an acceptance statement. So if you are, let's say, feeling really angry, and that's been an emotion that you've avoided your whole life, you might actually just accept the anger right now and see that it might be helping you. And so I show
mm,
people you can do a collarbone statement and say, I accept myself completely, even with this anger. Um, and so that really helps take down the shaming and the defensiveness, and that opens up a portal really for healing in a lot of spaces. And as far as the assessment, it's something that you get also in the book, but I'm just giving it away for free. So at the end of the book, after people have read through these different, the acceptance,
mhm,
awareness, curiosity, all these different skill sets, they can sort of rate themselves on these skill sets and then go, oh, okay, well, I'm a little lower than I want to be on this one. And so then I give some exercises in the book for how you can move forward and maybe grow in one of those places. So this assessment's just kind of fun. As I tell people in the book, do not like don't judge yourself, don't shame yourself. I would not rate a 10 out of 10 on any of these assessments myself. So this is not about
yeah.
perfection. It really is about looking at, and the questions are, I really love the questions. I'm not like self-aggrandizing here. I did make them up. But as they came to me, I was like, yes, that's the way I want to capture that. That's the question I'd want to ask myself in this space. And so they're just really fun questions to look at and consider where you might be on a scale of curiosity, right? Can you really
Hmm.
sit and be curious with people, or where you are and a level of self-awareness, body awareness? So I hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the book and I hope that people go and get it. I got mine on Kindle and I know it's available on Amazon. Never Too Late, Growing Up Before You Grow Old by Megan Hartness. And what a joy and pleasure to have you on as a guest. Thank you so much for this authentic AF conversation and I look forward to more and more and more with you in connection.
Thank
So
you so
thanks.
much. It's been such a joy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Hi, I'm Christy Bemis, and I am your host for Authentic AF Conversations with People in the Ignite Your Life classroom with Christy Bemis. And I'm here as a psychotherapist, a sex educator, and a relationship expert. My true passion in life is to guide you to have deeper connections, stronger ways of communicating with each other, and more intimacy in your life. And each of my guest speakers are here because they feel as passionate about their topic to enhance your relationships as I do. So, welcome. Sit back, grab a journal, grab a pen, because this isn't your normal podcast. This is not just a sit and get. This is a classroom to enhance your experience. There'll be journaling prompts, guided experiences, questions to ponder, and more. So, welcome to Authentic AF Conversations.